In this presentation, we're going to continue on our comprehensive problem entering the purchase of supplies on account. So here's our transaction. We're going to go over here and post that into our general journal, or record it to the general journal, and then post it to the general ledger, which we'll then use to create the trial balance automatically. So we're going to be down here. We're going to skip a line. We are in cell B16, where we're going to have the date of 1/5. Then we will put the supplies. So we're going to purchase supplies, and we purchased it on account. So when we go through our normal kind of questions, we usually say, well, is cash affected? And here we're going to say no, because we purchased it on account. That's what it means there. Different text could use different terminology. Obviously, in real life, we would know how we purchased it. But we have to know what a text would kind of indicate that. So on account means we didn't buy it with cash. What did we buy it with? Probably like a credit card or on a payable account, a liability. But if we didn't pay cash, it's often easiest for us to then think about, well, what did we buy? And what we bought was supplies. Now, supplies is a little tricky too, because note there's a supplies. If we have a trial balance, which I always recommend having, we can see supplies up top here, but we can also see supplies down here on an expense. You know, why would it be in one or the other? Supplies is one of those areas that's a bit tricky. In a book problem, typically we're going to put supplies up here as an asset, because under the matching principle, we haven't used it yet. So if supplies are significant, like if we buy a lot of supplies and we store them somewhere and then we use them as we go, then we really shouldn't be expensing them as we purchase them, but as we use them. In practice, however, and usually there is kind of like a dollar limit, because it takes more work for us to put it up here and then expense them. So if supplies are really small, we're talking like paper clips or something, we might use them for an entire year. But we would still probably just expense the paper clips at the point of purchase. Why? Because it's easier to do so. So supplies, if they're significant, we should, in accordance with the matching principle, put it on the books as an asset, and then we will expense it as we use them with the use of adjusting journal entries. That's what we'll do here. It'll also be a great introduction to a similar process we'll use for something like inventory. We're basically going to have to take inventory kind of for supplies. We're going to have to count the supplies and figure out how much we still have, and then make an adjustment under this method. So the supplies is an asset like cash. It has a debit balance. We need to make it go up because we got more of it, so we're going to do the same thing to it. Another debit. So in L7, right click and copy. We're going to put that in cell C16, right click and paste. 1, 2, 3. Then we're going to put the amount that we purchased for. It's going to be 16,000 of supplies. 16,000. We're going to credit something for 16,000. I could put a negative 16,000. I like to use a little formula, which is negative of that number. We're going to take that number, flip the sign. There's the 16. What will that go to? It's not going to be decreasing cash, not decreasing the good thing, not decreasing an asset, but increasing the bad thing, increasing a liability, increasing accounts payable. So here's accounts payable. It's in the liabilities section. Liabilities have credit balances. We're going to make it go up. The bad thing is going up by doing the same thing to it, increasing it. So, and don't think that credits are necessarily bad by me saying the bad thing's going up. It just happens that, you know, this is a liability account and it has a credit balance, which is kind of bad. However, revenue also has a credit balance, and when it goes up, it's good. So credits and debits aren't necessarily good or bad. They're just how we have to use them in order to increase or decrease whatever account we happen to be working with. This one is a credit balance account. We're going to make it go up by increasing it with a credit. So I'm going to copy that. We're going to put that in cell C17. Right click and paste 1, 2, 3. I'm going to indent it, which may be done for you already in the formatting, but just to practice and see where that's at. It's in the Home tab, Alignment, increase the indentation. There we have it. We're going to post this out. So I'm going to post supplies first. Here it is here. We're going to post this to the general ledger. This is called posting. This is the general journal, which we created. We journalized the journal entry in the general journal, which we will now post to the general ledger, which will be used to create the trial balance. So here's supplies. Here's supplies on the trial balance. It's the third account. It's going to be the same on the general ledger. Now to do this, I'm going to practice freezing the panes so that we can just practice a little bit of Excel. I want this side to be frozen, but I don't want to see column A because that's going to get in the way. So I'm going to scroll to the right a little bit till column A goes away, And then we've got just B flush with the side. If I scroll back up, I want to be here on F1. Then we'll freeze the panes by going to the View tab. We'll go to the Windows group and we will freeze the panes and freeze the pane. No more pane. So then we're going to say that supplies is here. Supplies is here. Third account, cash, accounts receivable, supplies. So if I scroll to the right, I can get supplies right next to our journal entry if we want to. And we're going to say I'm posting this to the debit side in cell S16. Now, if you can't freeze the panes or you don't want to, if it's too much trouble, don't worry, just scroll in a little bit more. Other people, I notice if you have good eyes, you can make the whole worksheet really small so that you can see everything on one page, which is not an option for me. But if it's an option for you, then that's another way that people like to do that. So we are in S16. I'm going to say equals and point to this 16 and enter, bringing the zero balance up by 16 to 16. If we scroll just to the right, or put our cursor just to the left, I should say, of the frozen panes and scroll right, we'll pop back over here and we'll see that that supplies account has now gone up and we're out of balance by the 16. Now we're going to post the payable, which is of course the first liability. So if we scroll to the right with those frozen panes, we're scrolling right, we can get the accounts payable, first orange account right here, right next to where we want it. We want to be on the credit side because we're on the credit side. So we are in X21 equals, and point to that 16,000, bringing the zero balance up by 16 to 16. Note this does not represent a negative number for purposes of debits and credits. It's going up in the credit direction. For Excel, it sees it as a negative, but for debit and credit purposes, it's just going up in the credit direction. So then we're going to go to the left of the frozen panes and scroll right, pop back over here, and we see there's the 16,000 there. So we have increased supplies, the asset. We increased the liabilities. We can see our accounting equation still in balance here. Note there's no effect on net income. No effect on net income. Meaning here, no revenue or expenses. If we had put the supplies to expenses, we would be decreasing net income. And that would make sense if we were using the supplies right now under an accrual basis. However, if we're not using the supplies, if we haven't consumed them yet, then we should expense it in the time period in which they have been consumed in order to help generate revenue. That's the reason we're putting it up here on the asset side in a similar way as we would for something like inventory. We put it on inventory until we sold the inventory. Here we're putting supplies up top on the balance sheet until we consume them, use them in order to help generate revenue.